you hear me?
Welcome to this week's edition of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. It's me, Tony B. And once again, we'll be talking with members of our community about how they are dealing with, or businesses, or entities, or agencies, nonprofits, anything that can be, which has been everything, affected by the impact of the coronavirus. We focus particularly on South Seattle. Joining me right now on the show is Leija Farr. Leija, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry. I'm doing pretty good. How are you today?
And am I saying your name correctly, Leija?
Yes, you got it, Leija.
All right, fantastic. Leija, you are a poet laureate, and you're here to talk about the Stay Hydrated campaign. And I definitely want to get to that, but let's hear a little bit about you and your background before we get started. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, my name is Leija Farr. I'm 22 years old. Originally from South Seattle, born and raised. I was the first Seattle Youth Poet Laureate back in 2015, so when I was 17 years old, through the Seattle Arts and Lectures. And since then, I'm using my platform to amplify social justice for Black and Brown people.
You know, I'm having, I think your phone or whatever was going on broke up a little bit, and I
Oh
couldn't
no.
hear it. It was, let's try that again. I think we were having a bad
Okay.
connection.
My name is Leija Farr. I'm 22 years old, born and raised in South Seattle. I was the first Seattle Youth Poet Laureate back in 2015. And since then, I've been using my platform to amplify social justice around Black and Brown people.
All right. And in doing what you do personally, what have you noticed a difference if you- in the in I don't know, could it just be the stress of coronavirus? Could it be how has it impacted you personally and what you do?
Definitely a lot of stress. It's required me to reevaluate my relationship with time and kind of just seeing where do I fit in my creativity. It's giving me more time to analyze what I want to seek about as I become an adult. My topics in poetry have changed. So it's giving me the time to just reevaluate myself and kind of analyze from within. But it's a good time. I think this is a good amount of time that I'm having to do that.
You know, it's good to take a positive outlook on things, especially in times like this. Be hydrated. We got some things to unpack here. Let's start with that, the Be Hydrated campaign. What is that about?
Be ready, be hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
The campaign is Be Ready, Be Hydrated. It's a campaign that was launched through the VITA Agency a few months ago, and it has four major, or I would say not four major, but four main kind of points that is trying to reach across. So it wants to lower the demand for soft drinks.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. We see a lot of soft drinks. It's a very addictive beverage, so lowering the demand is very important. Kind of pointing out the marketing strategies that these campaigns around sports icons, influencers, things like that. Pointing out the health concerns that come with drinking those drinks, and also giving an alternative, which is water, which is what we're pushing for.
Well, let's talk about some of the health impacts, especially as we are in this nice weather, and the
Mm-hmm.
tendency can sometimes be, hey, I'll just grab a soft drink. What are some of the health impacts that we're talking about? And we, to some extent, some of us know how these add to the disparities that have created the situation we're in regarding health. But what are
Right.
some of the things?
Right. So there was a study that showed that drinking two sodas a day increases your chance of getting type 2 diabetes by 26%.
Whoa.
So just that fact alone, yes. So just that fact alone should make people be like kind of pausing a little bit. Even replacing one of those with a water would be more beneficial to you. I also connect the times that we're in right now with the revolution and everything going on. I feel like holding a can of soda while you're at a protest in the front lines is kind of counterproductive. You want to
Mhm.
be feeding yourself correctly and getting good things into your body. So I think it's important to look at it from an inner aspect as well as the outer aspect. It also has effects on your skin as well. So I would say just be mindful of how you're treating yourself.
And if you are a young person and you are not experiencing chronic illness, does it still impact you? Are you still a person who, again, that statistic that you read off, two sodas increases your chances 21%. So if you're young, if you're active, if you're healthy, but you drink soda, is it still going to have the same impact on you?
It'll still have the same impact because, as we know, sugar is a very addictive thing to put into your body. It's a crash. Unlike water, you drink water, there's no crash that's associated with it. So if you're constantly giving yourself that crash daily and daily, it will actually take a toll on you. It does still have the same implications on younger people, which is why it's so important for educating them right now, giving them that information.
You're listening to me, Tony B. This is our special Friday program, creating awareness to the impact of the coronavirus in South Seattle and surrounding communities. Join me is Leija Farr. She mentioned before, a 22-year-old poet from South Seattle. And I want to kind of to get you to say it, but I want to share with folks as well. The first youth poet laureate back in 2015, and since then has made a name for herself with poems centered around social injustice. And you're a self-proclaimed foodie.
Yes, a lot of people wouldn't think that when they see me, but I love food. I love all kinds of food, Thai food, seafood. Give it all to me. I love it.
And during this process with Seattle's sweetened beverage tax, the VITA Agency created a group of change leaders, and you were part of that group. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so they had a campaign, like I said, where they brought in different young people, some of them being artists like myself, some of them being models. They brought us in and we did a whole photo shoot around this, paid photo shoots. And it was very important that they went into the communities and got young people out of them. Because like I said earlier, with a lot of campaigns that are centered around soft drinks, they'll have sports influencers, they'll have different icons that people look up to. And I think it's important that you have people from the community that young people can relate to, so they can say, oh, they're doing this, I trust them, so I should also be invested in this as well.
And for anyone who may be unaware about the city sweetened beverage tax, what is the City of Seattle sweetened beverage tax, and what does it have to do with your campaign? Be ready, be hydrated.
Yes. So I think it has a lot to do with the campaign. Back in 2018, they passed the sweetened beverage tax, which put, I believe, $1.75 on, they added $1.75 tax onto soft drinks. So that's any drinks that have high sugar content. And the data that they got after showed that the consumption of those drinks actually went up. So it had the opposite effect of what they were going for. So it's important that we do this because just the tax thing is not enough initiative to get the ball rolling on education. We have to actually go into these communities and be willing to give the information. Just having a law is not going to change much.
And this, what are you, hidden sugars? What are hidden sugars?
Hidden sugars, it's toxic, it's deadly. There was another survey we actually did with 600 young people. A lot of them associated clear beverages, clear sodas with being healthier for you. And so that's what we consider the hidden sugar, is them associating a clearer beverage with being healthier for you, when those clear beverages could have the same sugar content as a beverage that's darker. So knowing that just because something is clearer doesn't mean that it's pure for you is important for people to know.
You know, this is great information. Do you have a any statistics or anything, any information that you've aggregated that shows in particular uh, the consumption by black and brown people, people of color, and if we can tell the impact that this is having on those particular communities?
I don't have the statistics for the actual consumption, but there was a statistic that showed that Black teens see these soft drink ads and advertisements 2.3 times more than the counterparts. And I think that has direct correlation to the consumption level being higher in low income communities. But I don't have the actual statistic to back what you're asking for, but I could only assume that because they're seeing it more, they're participating in the activity more.
And let's talk about the campaign again. Be ready, be hydrated. What are some of the essential messages that you're trying to get across to folks?
Yes, I think that a lot of people think that just because you're young, you can't be educated. Like I said before, education is important early on in life. I actually saw a poster on Instagram earlier that said water is medicine, is our first medicine. And when you think about that, you think about the healing aspects of it. And ridding that of the communities of the low income and the impoverished communities, the Black and brown communities, rids that healing that is necessary in those communities. So I think it's important to gain the knowledge to know what the healing aspects of water are. If water's not sweet enough for you, add a piece of fruit. I always tell people that. No alternatives instead of reaching for that sweet beverage that in the long run will have negative impacts.
Again, my guest is Leija Farr, and you know what? I want to talk about the Vida Agency as well. Can you share some information with us about the Vida Agency?
Yeah, so the VITA Agency is all around. It's a Seattle organization. They're all around doing different projects, um, different organizations, different campaigns for young people, most targeted around young people and their paid opportunities, which I think is super important because we need to be creating an ecosystem in Seattle. I think it's important that we regenerate that money to the young people so they can go back and further the message. So the main purpose of the VITA Agency is to reach out and do campaigns that will be beneficial, not just now, but in the long run.
And again, Leija, you mentioned that you were from Seattle, South Seattle. You
I
are
am.
you are 22, so I'm calling that young. You may not feel that way. um, but for you, why is it and has it been important for you to be impactful in your community, to share information and education, as you were talking about, with your peer group of your community?
Right. I think that healthy eating is a revolution within itself. It's a protest within itself. You're rebelling against what the system is putting on you. I don't know what to call it. The status quo that they're putting on you to drink these beverages that are deadly for you. Early on in life, my mom has always told me, don't drink all this soda. She's always geared me to drinking water. And I think that anything that you're doing that is a form of activism starts from within. You have to be feeding yourself from within. I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do with poetry if I didn't feed myself the right foods, if I wasn't healthy. I wouldn't be speaking from a healthy mindset. So I think in order to have a healthy mindset, it starts with what you're eating. And that starts young. So that's what I would tell people my age.
And we also know that if you put unhealthy things in your body as opposed to healthy things, you're less prepared to learn.
Right.
And well, I'll let you go ahead and continue on that. And but that's one of the realities of this situation. The campaign again is called "Be Ready, Be Hydrated." We're talking about hidden sugars, sugars in body, sugars in drinks, and just broaching the subject about the importance of as you approach your day when you get started, putting healthy things in your body. That's important, isn't it, Leija?
Very important. Like I said, with the sugary drinks, there's a crash associated with it. So if you're always crashing every now and then, you're not going to stay on that high that you need to be on in order to be productive throughout the day. You're going to be sitting on the couch. You're going to be slumped over. With water, there's no crash associated with it. There's this high that continues. It has positive effects on your body. It shows in your skin. It shows inside your body. It has positive effects. So you have to be prepared. You have to have that energy force in order to take on the day. You don't, it's gonna slow you down.
And so we're probably thinking soda.
Hmm.
What are there other types of drinks that are also associated with the sugar tax that have these sugars in them? 'Cause first thing you think about is the soda, but are there other drinks that folks commonly use? You need to say, hey, wait a minute, this check your sugar content on this.
Yes, of course. I would say energy drinks. I know that a lot of energy drinks are targeted towards young people, especially athletes. If you need some electrolytes, grab this, whatever the energy drink is. And they follow that trend of drinking those energy drinks, not knowing that the content in a lot of those is extremely high as some of the other ones that you would consider, more deadly for you or more toxic for you. So it's important to read the labels on what you're drinking, because just because something says energy drink doesn't mean that it's actually going to give you the energy that you need for that time.
Now, if an energy drink again gives you energy but has sugar in it, does that mean you also get that same crash that you would from soda?
Exactly. Exactly. You might have the energy for that moment. It's a momentary energy, but after a while it just crashes. And I know a lot of people that, once that crash happens, they drink more. They drink more. So it becomes a cycle. It becomes a ritual that we're working on breaking.
The campaign is called Be Ready, Be Hydrated, put
Yes.
together by the Vida Agency. Again, my guest joining me is Leija Farr, 22-year-old poet from, big up South Seattle. Then you know all
South
about Rainier
Seattle.
Avenue. And we love to showcase our talent and our genius from Rainier Avenue. A lot of times, the things that impact our community don't get to us, or the things that are impacting our community don't get out of our community. And so I think
Hmm.
that it's critical and important that we focus and hyper focus some of these issues, especially when you're talking about health, to the folks at South Seattle. And often when they hear and when we hear from someone who is from our community, from someone who we consider to be a trusted advocate, it makes a difference. Have you found that to be the case with this campaign?
For sure. Like I said, the trust is the foundation. The trust is the soil that we're kind of trying to build from and grow from. So you have to have trust between people that you're reaching out to. If they don't trust you, you don't trust your message. If they don't trust that you're somebody that will advocate for them, that you're somebody that will be there for them, that will actually be in these communities, then how can they trust a campaign that you're launching? So having me, a young person that's a poet, that's for Black and brown people, is important, because it shows them that I'm here and that I'm actually somebody from the community that cares.
And what about, I mean, just exploring some of these drinks. What if these drinks say zero, calories or sugar free? Um, uh, uh, th- are you getting those hidden sugars, or can you kind of is that a better choice?
So that's the thing that I was talking about with deceptive marketing.
Hmm.
Um, Labels can say a lot of different things. That's why it's so important that you read the nutritional facts. Just because something is low in sugar doesn't mean it's not high in something else. So it's important that you read the nutritional facts and understand what you're putting in your body. Always turn that label around and just take a gander. If you don't know what something says, look at this is something in your body. So it's important that you look at it.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. And for those of you listening, I think there's kind of a bad connection, Leija. Sometimes you're breaking in and breaking out. And so we're aware that that's happening. There was an important fact that you mentioned earlier that I'd like you to kind of go over again. And that's explaining the intended purpose of the sugar tax, as it's being called, and then the reality of the sugar tax. You mentioned, again, in some instances, there was an increase in sugar intake in these soft drinks.
Yeah, so the statistics from the sugar tax, the sweetened beverage tax, that's what they're calling it,
Sweetened beverage
showed,
tax, but
yeah,
yeah,
sweetened
okay.
beverage tax. It showed that the numbers, the consumption of the beverages actually went up. So it had the negative result. It had the opposite of what they were going for. So that's why I was saying that having that tax alone is not helpful. We need to be doing more. We need to actually be in these communities. We need to actually be educating people. A tax alone is not going to stop anything, and it showed that from the report that came out showing that the consumption actually went up.
Leija, and I like the fact that you brought up the crash that takes place. Again, as we are in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, one of the things that we know for sure is that there are a number of different stressors, whether that be being an essential worker, working at a store, working at a fast food restaurant. That's a stressor. We know that you're concerned about contracting the virus. That's a stressor for those who live in multi-generational homes who have to go out and do this essential work. You have to worry about getting this and bringing it back home and potentially infecting your parents, your grandparents. All of these things weaken the immune system. And so I'll let you talk a little bit more about that. And again, what you're talking about, just again to reiterate, because we can't say this enough, the importance of putting healthy things in your body and trying to keep unhealthy things out of your body at a critical time.
Yes. Like you said, there's a multi-layered system that's working right now against us. And to stack onto that with something that's not healthy for you is counterproductive. So I think right now is the best time to kind of analyze what you're eating, what you're drinking, relate back to yourself, relate back to the earth, the natural elements that come from it, and do research on what is beneficial for you. If it's artificial, the coloring in sugary beverages alone should tell you that it's not good for you. So I think that you need to be relating back to yourself and finding what works for you, that is natural, that is organic. Like I said, just because something's clear, a beverage clear, does not mean it's healthy for you. So you have to be doing the research. The research is the number one important thing.
Now, Leija, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But how about giving us a little bit of one of your poetry? You don't have to. I know that's not why you're here, but we've been talking.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one that would kind of relate to this. I don't know if there's one that would. Let's see. I'll do, this doesn't relate to what we're talking about, but I think it kind of does because, like I said, I'm talking about Black and brown communities, and this is the issue that is affecting Black and brown communities. It's a poem I did around the time where a lot of Black women were going missing. So I'll do a little snippet of it. I won't do all of it.
Okay.
All of it.
Oh, thank you. Let's hear it.
The sunrise reminds me of the half-braided head of a Black girl. Reminds me of all the solid gold that we carry underneath our tongues. Partially undone twist outs, Black girls are all sun. I see the reports of the Black girls missing in DC, and I notice the sunrise hasn't been the same. The spine of another day doesn't glow, doesn't stretch its body across the canvas of the world. Earth is a Black girl. She has big lips and bantu knots, and she has been weeping. Her skin cracks and weeps incessant Her skin cracks and weeps incessant rainfall. She lifts every Black girl on her back and wonders why society doesn't do the same. Why do they forget us? Where is the Amber Alert when our magic is misplaced? Where is the headline? Where is the picket sign? Why haven't you noticed the sunrise is changing? That's all I'm going to do right now. Sorry, I haven't done that poem in a minute, so I'm like...
Well, thank you, Leija, and thank you to the VITA Agency for the work that they are doing in our communities to keep our communities healthy. We have about a minute left, Leija, and I want to give you an opportunity for final words here. Again, the campaign is Be Ready, Be Hydrated. Anything you want to leave our audience with before you go?
Yes, I would say... first and foremost, if you want more facts on the campaign, bereadybehydrated.com. We'll tell you a lot more information on that. You can see me on the website and a lot of other dope young people. And I would also say again that eating healthy is revolutionary. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. You need to be eating healthy. You need to be understanding that this revolution we're going through right now needs you. It needs you to be prepared. It needs you to be ready. It needs you to be hydrated. It needs you to have your body full of things that are important to you. So ditch the soda and grab a water.
All right. Leija, thanks again for joining. Congratulations to you on the work that you're doing, and much success to you in your career as a poet as well.
Thank you so much, Tony.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. This is our special Impacts of the Coronavirus show that we do every Friday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And we'll be back to talk more with members of our community right after this.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not explaining to my intern exactly what R&B is, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Boeing said Wednesday that due to the collapse in demand for airliners, it will slow down the planned revamp of 737 MAX production in Renton, cut wide-body jet production rates in Everett, and will study consolidating 787 Dreamliner assembly to a single location in North Carolina. As the company announced, $2.4 billion loss for the quarter ending in June, Boeing said the rate reductions and possible shrinking of facilities will force further job losses beyond those previously announced. It did not specify how deep the cuts will go. Per the Seattle Times, in April, Boeing said it would cut, quote, more than 15% of jobs at its commercial jet business, principally in its Seattle area operations, amounting to a 10% cut company-wide in a combination of attrition, voluntary buyouts, and layoffs. Job losses already announced will see 10,500 Boeing jobs cut in Washington state this year. CEO Dave Calhoun said, quote, more decisions are likely ahead of us. Wednesday's announcement means further cuts are likely to be concentrated in Everett.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
You can protect others from getting sick from COVID-19. Here's what you do. Stay at home unless you need food, medicine, or medical care. Avoid large crowds. And if you have to go out, stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Don't forget to wear a cloth face covering so you don't spread germs when you talk, sneeze, or cough. Cloth coverings should not, however, be used on children under 2. For more information, call 206-477-3977. That's 206-477-3977. The news on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Your community resource for current information.
Hey, this is Kendra. Join me in the Rainier Avenue Radio News team Mondays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Your community radio station, your community news. Get current, updated information. Look, we just tell you what's going on. You decide for yourself. Live news on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Your source for information. Anchored by Kendra Leon. The news on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. What's happening?